Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the real Pat Man here. Just coming to you guys with another video. It's been a minute since I've done a video talking about the salary cap. I know human beings are visual creatures, man, and sometimes you have to see it for yourself before you can believe it. So, uh, we're not gonna waste too much time. We're gonna get right into this video. Some of the things we're gonna be talking about is, hey, what exactly is the Falcons, off-season plan? Right? What are they trying to do? and and a bit of an issue that I see a lot is was talking about Matt Ryan and his future with his team, right? Um, and before we kind of get too deep into it, we're just talking about Matt Ryan for a second, right? Matt Ryan, in my opinion, it's my opinion, controls his own destiny, right? And the reason why I say Matt Ryan controls his own destiny is you just saw it with the Packers, right? Aaron Rodgers had some injuries a few years ago. His production kind of dipped a little bit naturally because they had a change in regime, had brought in a new head coach. Naturally, they're going to want to get younger at the quarterback position, right? Because quarterback position is typically the hardest position on the team to replace, man, especially when you have a guy that's been there for a really long time, right? And Aaron Rodgers went out there, put forth an MVP season, won the MVP, and now questions are arising. What are they going to do with Jordan Love? Um, and I feel like the Falcons could put themselves in the same predicament if they decide to go quarterback at 4. And like I said, I think it depends on Matt Ryan, man. And people have to understand that just because you're talking about a quarterback being replaced doesn't mean he's bad, right? Just my opinion. It's no different than the situation with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes, where Alex Smith was an MVP quarterback the year prior, but the Kansas City Chiefs still traded 2 first-round picks to get Patrick Mahomes. And even the year Patrick Mahomes was drafted, Alex Smith still was a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. He was top 10 in efficiency, most efficiency metrics like EPA per play and stuff like that. So the reason why they made the switch was because while Alex Smith was good, he wasn't great, right? And they knew that just being good was going to place an actual limitation on the ceiling of their team. So, they took the risk, they took the dive, and they ended up Patrick Mahomes. And we obviously know what happened 3 years removed from that decision. The Kansas City Chiefs won a Super Bowl. So the Falcons could elect to explore something very similar with Matt Ryan, where if Matt's good, they're still going to say, hey, you're good, but being good is not good enough, and it's not going to elevate the ceiling of our football team, if that makes sense. And that's kind of how I feel as well, man. I feel like if Matt's good in 2021, I think they're going to try to potentially move on from him going into 2022, man. But if he's great, borderline MVP caliber type of quarterback, I do think the Falcons are going to obviously find a way to keep him in Atlanta, for at least 2022 and possibly beyond that as well. So just kind of looking at overthecap.com. You kind of play with the CAC a little bit. I just want you guys to visually see what this team's cap situation looks like visually, right? So right now they just restructured Matt Ryan. As you can see, his cap hit is $26.9 million, right? So the question that everybody's asking is what's going on with Julio Jones and what's going on with Grady Jarrett, right? Because you see these two astronomical cap numbers. Both of these guys are eating away at well over $43 million combined against salary cap for 2021. So what are the Falcons going to do to kind of remedy those guys? My guesstimation is they're going to try to extend Grady Jarrett out a couple of years, maybe add some portable years onto his contract to try to lower his cap hit from 20.8 million to something more manageable. Ideally close to around $10 million, potentially with an extension with some portable years added. Julio Jones, on the other hand, no idea what they're going to do with his contract. Julio Jones is getting older and whatnot, and no one knows what they really truly want to do with his contract, especially considering Calvin Ridley is entering the 4th year of his career. So, the team's obviously going to have to decide if they want to extend the 5th-year option to him. And if they do that, that's fully guaranteed for next year. And, teams typically don't like to invest a ton of money into two wide receivers, especially since Calvin really has ascended to the point of basically being a number 1 wide receiver. Um, just in my opinion. So, 2021 is what it is. I don't think the team's really going to do too much with 2021. I mean, they've made a couple of transactions. I think 2021 is mainly going to be a bridge gap year. They're just kind of seeing what they have to play with on this roster. I don't think they're going to make any crazy moves. They do got to sign the draft class though, which kind of begs the question of, what they're going to do, what subsequent move they're going to make to try to have enough funds to sign the draft class. And my guesstimation is, again, this is what I would do: extend Grady Jarrett, because that will give you the necessary funds on top of what they already have to sign your draft class this summer. So we'll just see what they do with Grady, with Julio Jones, and possibly with Deion Jones' contracts. But going into 2022 is interesting because you see this number here and it kind of scares people. $48.6 million is Matt Ryan's cap hit for 2022. And a lot of people are kind of, a little bit confused on if a team would willingly move on from a player whose cap hit is that high, right? And to answer that question, we don't know. We don't know. But I will say this though: when you're looking at the Falcons cap situation, they have a ton of contracts on the books. Obviously, this number 19 is going to be a lot higher because of their rookie class they're going to bring in. I think they're going to have at least 7 rookies, 7 potentially 8 rookies they're going to bring in. So this number right here, 19, is going to be closer to like 26. And then when you add undrafted free agents to the roster and stuff like that, I mean, the Falcons could very easily have close to 30 contracts, on the books for 2022. So here's an interesting scenario that I like to kind of play out for you guys, right? The curious case of Julio Jones, right? What are they gonna do with him? What are they gonna do with Grady? Like I said, I think they're gonna keep Grady. Julio is a question mark. There's a lot of people that are mocking Kyle Pitts to the Falcons at 4. I think Kyle Pitts would be an outstanding addition to the team. However, if you do draft Kyle Pitts at 4 overall, man, you're pretty much telling Julio Jones his time is limited. Obviously, if you're going to draft a tight end that high, he's going to be probably your primary option along with Calvin Ridley. Man, I think you're going to run your offense through those 2 guys. And I just don't see, any reason why the team would probably want to keep Julio Jones in a scenario like that. So they could explore trading Julio Jones away. Obviously they would have to eat the dead cap. I mean, if you put the calculator and you trade them, I mean, you're in pure dead cap hit of $23.2 million, which is $200,000 more than what his cap hit is. So it'll cost you $200,000 to move Julio Jones, right? But if you look at and if you actually go forth with that transaction this year, right? I mean, look, his money doesn't count against your books for 2022. So all of a sudden, your cap number, if the cap is $203,000, now granted, there's a lot of folks that believe this number is going to be closer to $210 million. Now all of a sudden, the Falcons have, roughly around $60 million, right? So that's one avenue they can explore, as well as extending Grady Jarrett out, as well. Obviously, you extend Grady Jarrett out. You add some board over years. You're going to reduce his cap hit for not only this year, but potentially next year as well. But here's the scenario with Matt Ryan, right? Let's just say hypothetically, just for this purpose, we're going to restructure Grady Jarrett, right? We're not going to try to, do anything crazy with him. We're just going to restructure his deal. We're going to max restructure Grady, right? And that's going to give us the necessary funds that we need as a team to sign our draft class, right? Now, obviously, the Falcons could also make some other additional moves. Guys like, Isaiah Oliver, these fringe guys, maybe they just not, a lot of these guys down here that are futures contract guys that probably won't even make a team, get replaced by a draft pick. This number here is going to go up a little bit as well because of those guys, right? So we're going into 2022, right? Right now we're sitting at $55.5 million. In terms of cap room. Now, this number here is going to be slightly less. If I had to guesstimate, I'd probably say this number is probably going to be closer to like, I don't know, 47, $48 million once you factor in the draft class, right? But then you had a situation where, let's just say the Falcons, for purposes' sake, let's just say they decide to just roll with Julio Jones for a year, right? So they don't trade Julio; he's still here. All right, and they go into next year. Um, they could always elect to try to move Matt Ryan in 2022. It will be the largest dead cap hit in NFL history, though. So let's just say for discussion purposes, right? Let's just say they trade Julio Jones this year because they're trying to get younger, right? And let's just say Matt has an okay year. He has a good but not great year, and they decide to move on from him, right? And like I said, this number is close to like 47 million if my math is correct, because when you add in, uh, the rookies that are going to be drafted this year by the team and whatnot, they could take Matt Ryan if they wanted to. Now, if they trade him, it's not going to change any of his numbers because he has no more guaranteed salary, right? So they're just going to eat that $40 million. So they still have $63.7 million. Actually, that number is closer to probably the original 55 million that we just talked about. If they wanted to get Matt Ryan's books off, turn the page on him, and whatnot, and they could also make additional subsequent moves. They could cut a guy like Dante Fowler Jr. They can move on from Tyler Davison, depending on the year that Deion Jones has. I mean, they can move on from him. They can do a multitude of different things. So just because Matt Ryan's cap hit is that high next year, it doesn't automatically equate to him being here past 2022. Just in my opinion, it just depends on it always depends on Matt Ryan's performance, man. I mean, like I say, if Matt's okay, if he's good, if he struggles under Arthur Smith and whatnot, and the team's like, hey man, I think it's about time they can 100% move on from him. They just had to eat that money up front, man. I mean, the thing about it is, either you're gonna eat it next year or you're gonna eat it the year after that. Eventually, the Falcons are gonna have to eat that money. Um, it just depends on how far they want to kick it down the road. And like I said, a lot of this is gonna depend on Matt Ryan, right? If Matt's balling, if he's out there, the old Matt, and the Falcons are winning games and everything's good, I don't see no reason for the team to move on from him, right? But again, man, if he's okay, if they're still losing games, if there's just the roster's like, they can 100% elect to move on from Matt Ryan. This will be the most dead money eaten by a team in NFL history. Um, it could happen, 100%. It's just one of those things. Also, something important to note as well when you're looking at these salary cap numbers here, I believe overthecap.com right now is projecting Calvin Ridley, because he didn't make the Pro Bowl. He's projected to have his fifth year option be fully guaranteed at $11.1 million next year. And Hayden Hurst is projected to have his projected at $5.4 million next year. So altogether, that's around $16.6 million, actually $16.5 million between these two guys that potentially be fully guaranteed if the Falcons do elect to exercise the fifth year option for both of those players. Now, Hayden Hurst is a little bit older. I think he'll be like 28 years old or something like that on a fifth year option. So we'll just have to see with him. I know Calvin Ridley's option is almost guaranteed they get exercise. Um, Calvin Ridley is one of the most dynamic receivers in the league. Especially as a route runner, and I think that his ceiling is still up there. I don't think he's reached his ceiling yet. So the Falcons are definitely more likely gonna exercise Ridley. Hurst, on the other hand, we have no idea. If they're gonna exercise Hurst, they draft Kyle Pitts at 4. They're probably not gonna exercise Hayden Hurst. It's just the nature of the business, man. Um, but those two guys, like I say, together around $16.5 million projected to come off of the 2022 salary cap if both of those options are exercised as well. Which again, man, $11.1 million for Hayden Hurst. I mean, not for Hayden Hurst, for Calvin Ridley, and then you're talking about Julio Jones next year, who's supposed to count about $19.2 million. It's a lot of money tied to two wide receivers, man, especially if the team is not winning games. So the Falcons do have a decision to make. That's why me personally, man, I think that they're going to try to transition away from Julio Jones a little bit. and more towards Calvin Ridley, man. It's just financially, it doesn't make sense to have that much money tied up in the 2 wide receivers, especially if your team's not winning a ton of games. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, man. Please, subscribe and share this video out. And again, man, as transitions happen, as transactions happen, I may end up making another video, man. Just I know visually human beings are very visual creatures, man. So, hopefully this video was able to kind of answer some questions for you guys, man. But I appreciate your time. I'm out.